Hi, I'm Justin Snedden from the AR team at Niantic, and today I'm going to walk you through how to set up ARDK and get it running for one of your projects. So what we'll do is we'll start by going over to the developer portal, so lightship.dev, log in, and then click on the download section. From here, you can grab the ARDK itself by just clicking on this download link here, and you can also download the examples because we'll use those just to walk through opening an actual project that does something straight away. Now, while they're downloading, quickly jump over to the minimum requirements. We use the Unity 2019.4 LTS series, so just download the latest one of those if you don't already have one. It'll work on any, so if you've already got a couple of versions ago, that'll be fine. And the other thing to note is if you are developing on a Mac and you have an M1 Mac, you won't be able to build at the moment, and that's actually due to the Unity LTS support is not there for M1 Macs yet. Once that's all downloaded for you, you'll have a few files like this. You'll have the Unity package for the ARDK, and you'll have one for the examples. Just keep them handy. So we'll then jump over to Unity, and we'll make a new project. So go into here, click New. You'll have a bunch of templates over here. You can use different ones if you want to. There's just a few settings that you'll need to tweak depending on which one you pick. I'm going to pick Mobile 3D, and let's just call this ARDK Examples. Unity will now do what it does, so it'll take a few seconds to spool up that project. Okay, so Unity's loaded now. So the first thing we want to do is basically just set up the build settings to say that we are building for a particular device. Again, that's over on a different screen. Bring this over here. We just pick whichever one you're going to use first. I'm going to run through both of them, so I'll start with iOS. So I'll switch to the platform. First, right-click here, import package, and select the ARDK package. So you downloaded two. We'll get ARDK first, and then you'll get a pop-up window that is asking you to import everything. So just say yes to all. And at this point, you have everything you would need to start building your own project. But because that would take a lot longer, and we have other tutorials for walking you through those things, I'm just going to import our entire examples package. It's a very good place to start because you can pick through the code and work out how we did things. So import custom package and select the examples. Again, you'll get the pop-up. Just say yes to everything. Okay, now all of that has been imported. So what you can see here is the ARDK folder. In here is all of the actual ARDK systems, and in here is the examples we just pulled in. There are a whole bunch of different ones for you to look through over time as you're learning different parts of the system, whether it's networking, meshing, semantics, depth. There's all sorts of things in here, and there's even a few entire games that you can put onto your device and test, like Pong here. So just for the sake of it, I'll open one of these so that we can see what this looks like. So I'll open Semantic Segmentation. It's one of the easier ones to explain. Something that is very cool within ARDK is everything's mockable inside the editor itself, which means you can develop a lot of things directly in Unity and then test them on the phone periodically to make sure that they work on device so that you save some of those cycles of building to a device continually. If I run this, I'm probably going to get some errors, which I'll show you how to fix. When I run this, I'll hit go, and yes, I get a warning down here. And what that's basically telling me is, oh, you didn't put in your license key. So if I switch to the console, I couldn't find an ARDK auth file, and it just says it needs to be in this folder. So what we do is we go to the root and we make this folder. So create a folder called resources. And then we go into this folder and we go create another folder called ARDK. And then in here, we create from the ARDK menu, the ARDK auth config. So this file just has a string location here that you need to fill in. You get that key by going back to the developer portal.
And then just clicking on the dashboard link here. And you'll see there's a license key setup area. If you haven't already filled this in, then you'll go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you'd have a license key here that you can copy. Just basically add your app name, hit create, and it'll give you a nice long string. I'm not going to do that because otherwise I'll be putting a new license up there for people's, but you can go ahead and do that and just copy that and then jump back over to Unity.
You would put that in here. I'm just going to put this there for now, and I'll switch that out off screen. So save that. When we run this still, the key is needed for when you go to device. Some of the mocking systems will actually work now as is. But if I press this, what should have happened is every time I hit this button saying sky, so things that are marked as sky should have highlighted to say, oh, I found that as a sky. but it's not working, and that's because there's another error message which will say ARDK mock layer is missing. This is the setup for this mock scene, and as you can see, the layer is missing because I have created a new project which didn't have that set up by default. So what we want to do is just add a layer here, and that will be called ARDK underscore mock world. Is exactly what the error message tells you to do. So you quickly come in here, and then because this is a hierarchy of objects, we just want to make sure that they're all in that layer. So let's just select it again and then tell Unity, yes, change everything. So that when we run this in editor, we get the mocked system running. So when I change channels, so sky, the background was sky, and these little boxes have all been set up for one of the various channels that you can pick. So as you cycle through, it just sort of says, well, that stuff's ground. This is artificial ground, so bitumen, pavements, those sort of things. Water, buildings, and foliage, so trees and grass. And they're the channels that we've got that you can mock in the system at the moment. As more come online, you'll be able to see more. Very quickly, how that all works is if you just look at one of these objects, there's a little script here that just says what channel do we think this is. So it will, through Unity, pass that through. There are other examples in here that you can just open and play with. So there's another one for depth. If we run that, this also has similar mocking things. So here's a little scene. There's this cube that can be placed within the scene wherever you'd like. I can toggle depth to show what the simulated depth. This is just returning what Unity says the depth is. From a real camera, it'll return the camera from our machine learning model and depth of the real world. But what it means is in here, I can actually test what my code is doing. So this example is just placing that little plumb bob on anything where it thinks how far away that wall is or the floor is, and there's a button for placing the cube itself. So the cube will snap to wherever you put the little plumb bob, which is quite nice. And this example, when we run it on a phone, will just work. So I'll leave it on this one. And let's build for device. So there's a couple of other settings that you're going to need before this will work, building directly with device. It's more Unity settings than it is ARDK ones. So let's go back into the build settings. For iOS in particular, when we bring up player settings, remember first you set up your company as you would normally do, whatever you want to call this project. When you scroll down though, you're going to need to do two things because you're building for iOS. So you will need to fill in your device signing information, which again, I'll do off screen later. And also make sure that you're setting a camera usage description. So for iOS, you need to put this here in Unity. So just say required for AR. And that will mean when the permissions pop-ups come up, it'll actually work on phone because it'll say, hey, we need to use the camera, and this is why. Close that out, and then we can basically build. So if we hit build and run or Control B, however you would like to do that, it'll pop up because this is the first time. It'll ask me where to put it. So builds, just so that we've got a folder that we can easily remove from our git ignore or whatever way of ignoring stuff for your particular code system is. And then, yeah, away we go. And that will spool up Xcode because this is building for iOS, and then take a minute or two while it does what it does. Which is why I was saying the mocking system's great, because as you'll see when you go to build in this way, it takes a minute or two for Unity to compile what it needs, to give it to Xcode to compile what it needs, to then get it onto your phone. Also at this point, remember to plug in your phone, plug in your iOS device, and unlock it so that it will actually work. And yes, you might get some permissions pop-ups, it's fine, just asking about folder access. And here comes Xcode. And yeah, it's detected my phone and it's starting to build away. If it didn't pick up your phone, just make sure to select it and you can always hit build from there. When building in Xcode, if you get this sat in indexing continually, what this is when we gave permissions to use that folder on the desktop, there's still something not quite right on your Mac. You just need to restart for the Mac itself to realize that folder is accessible. So you want to go ahead and restart your Mac. I'm not going to do that right now. I'll just keep going and we'll jump back into setting up for Android and running. And switch over to Android, so just switch the platform. Okay, we've got Android here. Go into the settings. We are going to need to change a few things. So for Android, I recommend you remove Vulkan because some devices it just won't work. So we'll remove that if it's there. Then scroll down a little bit further and we need to change the version of Android that we're using. So KitKat is too old. It doesn't have all of the libraries we need. So I recommend jumping to around 10. That'll definitely work for most devices. The other thing we need to change is that we need this to build for 64-bit. So when we look here, it'll say ARM7. We want ARM64, which means we need to change this scripting backend to not be mono, to be IL2 CPP. Once we do that, we can then select ARM64. And once we've done this, we are ready to build for Android. So we can close this and we can hit build again. You will need to plug in your Android device, obviously. It will ask you for what you want to call the APK that it makes. So it'll start building. I'm probably going to get an error in a minute because I haven't actually plugged in my Android device. But if I had, it would just build and then launch directly onto, yes, there you go, launch directly onto the device itself. When you do plug in your Android device, make sure that you have set it up to be in developer mode and that you have enabled US debugging. So when you unlock it, it'll pop up and say, hey, we need US debugging. Just say USB debugging, just say yes. And then once you've done that and you build again, it should happily work and launch on your phone. Now, just quickly, when you run one of these examples, there's one more error message that we want to get rid of. So if you see down here, it will be saying that, hey, there's two of these auth configs. The reason for this is when I imported the examples package, it already had an auth config file in there. You're only allowed to have one, which is why you get this error message. So all we need to do here is quickly go into here, search for that file. So there's two of them there, and we just get rid of the one that we didn't put our key into. So we just get rid of this one, and then it'll work fine. So when I run this, no more error message. So the last thing we'll do is comp in some footage from running on the actual device that you can see here. That's it. It's very straightforward and very easy to get ARDK up and running. So hopefully you enjoy digging into our examples and have a great day.